you all for joining us today at Thread Sports. This is Chris Berg and I'm Craig Mender. Today we're going to talk a little bit about why we coach, what got the both of us involved in coaching, and why we continue to coach to this day.
We're also going to talk about crossing the threshold. That's a term that we use to describe when a person goes from being the coach to becoming just simply coach. And we have our stories about when that happened for each of us, when we crossed that threshold.
After high school, my playing days were done, and I wanted to be a part of that competitive environment still and the camaraderie of a team. So I started coaching youth football. And I did that for a few years and really enjoyed it. Had a child sometime later. And when he got to the age where he was ready to play sports, I got back involved in coaching youth sports again. Partly to be around the game again and be around the atmosphere of sports, but also to spend time with my son and coach him and have that opportunity.
My story's very similar. I was in college and in the summers started coaching basketball clinics and volleyball clinics and really enjoyed that. And then a few years later, after I had my own son, he wasn't old enough to start playing sports yet, but started coaching with a buddy up in Iowa and coaching youth baseball and really enjoyed it. Again, I enjoyed the camaraderie of it. I enjoyed seeing the enthusiasm that the young athletes had for playing their sport and enjoyed being a part of what they had going on there.
So very similar stories.
Very similar.
Like we've talked about. It's either the competitive desire to be around sports or when you have your own child and you want to spend time with them and be engaged in their lives.
That's right. Share a moment with them.
And I would assume a lot of youth coaches out there experience getting into it for the exact same reason.
That's right. It was that first season when I was coaching youth baseball, before my own children were old enough to play, that I came up with some guidelines to know if I was doing a good job coaching or not. And the guidelines that I had absolutely nothing to do with wins and losses. It had to do with player development. It wasn't just me standing out on the field talking about character and perseverance and never coaching baseball. I mean, we coached the fundamentals and coached them hard on those fundamentals, but the reason for coaching those fundamentals was because if they did it well, they'd have confidence.
That's right.
And if they had confidence, it wasn't just confidence in baseball, confidence in school, confidence in choices. And I thought, that's why you want them to do well. Is not because you could win that plastic trophy that's going to collect dust, but to instill in them a sense of confidence and ability to achieve and to overcome. So that was a big part of it. It had less to do with wins and losses and more to do with character development.
Absolutely.
With becoming good citizens, good friends, good sons and daughters, good siblings, good examples, and the fact that I could have a part in that, I just kept thinking this is such a privilege to be able to do that. So that was my moment. It went from man, I really want to win this championship so everybody will know what a great coach I am, and it went to, man, I want these young men to face life with positive outcomes and using sports as a vehicle to teach.
Absolutely. Coach, my moment happened my third year of coaching youth baseball. There was a moment during that season when I realized that something had changed. I had stopped thinking about our players in terms of position or in terms of what they can do to help us win games. I realized I was concerned about the players and how they interacted and respected their parents, and how they were doing at school, and how they interacted with their teammates. And I realized something was different. And it was in that moment that I realized three things. First of all, it was no longer about me. Secondly, it was no longer about wins, losses, outcomes of games. And third, and probably most importantly, I realized that I was changing in their eyes. I was no longer the coach of the team like we talk about. I had become coach. And what a powerful role that is as coach. But what great responsibility comes with that. My demeanor, my attitude, my actions directly impact and influence their actions, their attitudes, their demeanor. And that changed me. But more importantly, that changed the way I coach. And that was really my moment. And I tell people all the time, I've got 100 sons because of all the kids we've coached. And they've all become that to me. Just that, you know. And when you reach that level where you care about them off the ball field, that's the moment. So that's my moment when I crossed the threshold. You know, the truth is, Coach, it's no longer about the sport for me. It's no longer about the games. It's about our players. And further developing our players, not as ball players, but as young men. You know, sports offers so many wonderful lessons. So whether it's teamwork or it's hard work, persevering through adversity, or maybe using mistakes not as a statement of failure, but as an opportunity for learning. And it's those lessons that keep me coming back each year. You know, the games are almost irrelevant to me at this point. It's, you know, winning a championship is fun. It's fun because a team came together to earn something, to accomplish something. And that's very important for that group of men or young men to have that feeling of accomplishment. But it's not why I do it. Each season offers a new opportunity to continue that development for each of them. And it gives us the opportunity to facilitate that or to reinstill those lessons year in and year out. That's why I continue to coach.
Pretty early on, that first season that I coached, before my own kids were old enough, you spend a lot of time when you're doing it right. You sometimes don't get as much sleep because you're thinking about, how do I coach this aspect? How do I make this practice better? And then so there's a lot of time, even when you're not at practice and you're not at the games, there's a lot of time and a lot of effort. And then there's just the times at practice and games, and when you're there, you're not someplace else. Can't be two places at once. So I started to ask myself, why am I doing this? I mean, I was enjoying it, but I thought there has to be more. There has to be a bigger reason for it, and I started developing a philosophy for why I coach, and to really make it simple. I coach now not just because I want to teach the fundamentals of the game and because I enjoy the competition. It really has to do with I get to invest myself into the lives of these young athletes, and the impact that I have needs to be so much more than just a season. I get to have an impact for decades in their lives because I get to invest in them. So I want to do more than coach the fundamentals. I want to help them in life. What are the life lessons that they can take from this sport and apply in the years to come?
So that's our stories on why we coach, what keeps us coaching, and the perspective that we have about the importance of coaching youth sports. And truly, Coach, that's the foundation for Threat Sports.
That's right.
Right? It's our perspective on youth coaching that we want to share to other coaches out there, to give the knowledge and the resources so that other coaches not only have the experience that we've had for themselves, but just as importantly, to give the wonderful experience of youth sports to their players. And that's why we wanted to make this video today.
If you like this video, why don't you click the little thumbs up at the bottom of the screen. We're also on Facebook. Not only that, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd appreciate that. We're on Twitter. We have a website. What's that website, Coach?
There it is.
Wow! We're practically everywhere. I'm exhausted.
I like it, actually.